I'm writing this because I don't know how much longer I have before everything unravels completely. My name is Alex Carter. I'm 32 years old, and 3 days ago, I found a watch at an estate sale that let me rewind time by exactly 10 seconds. I know it sounds crazy, like something out of a comic book, but I swear on everything I am that it's real. And I've used it so many times that I think I've permanently damaged something in the fabric of reality. If you're hearing this story, it means I managed to get it out before the timeline collapsed entirely, so please listen carefully and never make the same mistake I did. It started last Saturday morning when I was browsing this estate sale in Queens, the kind where everything smells like mothballs and old people. The house belonged to some guy who'd been a watchmaker back in the day, and his kids were selling off decades of accumulated junk for cheap. I'm not really a watch guy, but I collect vintage stuff to flip on eBay. So I was digging through boxes of old timepieces when I found it. The watch was nothing special to look at, just a plain silver pocket watch with no markings or brand name. But something about it felt off in a way I couldn't explain. The asking price was $5, so I grabbed it along with some other random items and headed home to my apartment in Astoria. I didn't even look at the watch closely until later that night when I was cataloging my haul. When I opened the case, I noticed there was only one hand on the face, a red second hand that was frozen at the 12. There was also a small button on the side, different from a normal winding crown, almost like a reset button you'd find on a digital device. Being curious and kind of dumb, I pressed it. The second hand immediately started moving backward, ticking off 10 seconds in reverse before stopping at the 50-second mark. At the exact same moment, my apartment lurched, and suddenly I was standing 3 feet to the left of where I'd been. My coffee cup was back on the table full instead of half empty in my hand, and the TV show I'd been watching had jumped back 10 seconds. I literally stumbled and almost fell over, completely disoriented, like I just experienced the worst déjà vu of my life. I stood there for a solid minute trying to process what had just happened. My rational brain said it was impossible, that time travel doesn't exist and I'd probably just had some kind of seizure or blackout. But everything around me confirmed it. The TV was playing the same scene I just watched. My phone showed messages I'd already read. Even my cat was in the same spot, doing the same stretch she'd done 10 seconds ago. The watch in my hand felt warm now, almost alive, and the red second hand was slowly ticking forward again toward the 12. I spent the next hour testing it obsessively, pressing that button over and over like a kid with a new toy. Every single time, the world would lurch backward exactly 10 seconds, resetting everything except me and whatever I was holding. I rewound conversations with my roommate Danny. I reversed spilled drinks. I even managed to catch my phone before it hit the floor by rewinding the moment after I dropped it. It was the most incredible, impossible thing I'd ever experienced, and I was absolutely hooked. The first day, I used it maybe 20 times, just small stuff to see what I could get away with. I rewound a bad joke I'd made at the coffee shop, fixed a text message typo before sending it, and even avoided a puddle I'd stepped in by rewinding and taking a different path. Nobody seemed to notice anything weird. The world just continued on like nothing had happened, and I felt like I'd discovered the ultimate cheat code for life. Danny asked me that night why I seemed so happy, and I just told him I'd had a good day because how the hell do you explain that you can literally rewind time? By day 2, I was getting cocky with it. I used it to win $50 off Danny in poker by rewinding bad hands until I knew what cards were coming. I avoided an argument with my ex-girlfriend by rewinding the conversation and choosing better words. I even prevented a fender bender in a parking lot by rewinding and waiting for the other car to pass before pulling out. Each time I pressed that button, I felt this rush of power, this sense that I was somehow above the normal flow of cause and effect that governed everyone else's lives. That's when I started noticing the side effects. Small things at first, like hearing echoes of conversations that hadn't happened yet, or seeing people move in stuttering, jerky motions like a video buffering. My cat would sometimes stare at empty spots in the room and hiss, like she could see something I couldn't. The watch itself was changing too. The silver casing was developing these weird dark veins running through it, almost like cracks but not quite, more like the metal was being infected with something. I ignored the warning signs because I was addicted to the power. On day 3, Monday morning, I used the watch to avoid being late to my job at the marketing firm where I work. Traffic was hell, so I just kept rewinding every time I hit a red light, choosing different routes until I found the fastest path. I must have used it 40 times in that one commute alone. And by the time I got to the office, I had the worst headache of my life. and the world looked slightly wrong, like all the colors were just a bit off. That's when things started getting really weird. I was in a meeting with my boss Karen, and I swear I saw her say the same sentence 3 times even though I hadn't pressed the button. Then my coworker Mike walked past the conference room going left, and 5 seconds later I saw him walk past again, going right like there were 2 of him existing simultaneously. I excused myself to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and for just a moment I saw my reflection move independently, turning its head to look at me before snapping back to match my movements. I called in sick for the rest of the day and went home, my hands shaking as I held the watch. The dark veins had spread across the entire surface now, and the red second hand was ticking irregularly, sometimes moving forward 2 ticks, sometimes moving backward 1. I decided right then that I needed to stop using it, that whatever was happening was dangerous and I needed to just put the watch away and let things return to normal. But of course, that's not what happened. I was making lunch when Danny came home early from his bartending shift. He walked in looking upset, said he'd been fired for being late too many times, and asked if he could borrow money for rent. It was the exact same conversation we'd had that morning, word for word, except I distinctly remembered him leaving for his shift hours ago. When I pointed this out, he looked at me like I was crazy and insisted it was only 2 p.m., but my phone said it was 5:30. That's when I realized the truth. I hadn't just been rewinding 10 seconds at a time. I'd been creating loops, fractures in the timeline where moments were repeating or occurring out of sequence. Every time I'd pressed that button, I'd created a small break in causality, and now those breaks were spreading, overlapping, causing time itself to glitch like corrupted data. The watch hadn't been giving me power over time. It had been breaking time with every use, and I'd been too stupid and selfish to realize it. I tried to explain everything to Danny, showed him the watch, told him about the rewinding. He thought I'd lost my mind, said I'd been acting weird for days and maybe I should see a doctor. I got frustrated and pressed the button one more time, just to prove I wasn't crazy, just to show him that the watch was real. That was the biggest mistake of my life. The world didn't lurch backward this time. Instead, everything froze. Just completely stopped like someone had paused reality itself. Danny was frozen mid-sentence, his mouth open, his hand raised pointing at me. The TV was stuck on a single frame. The second hand on the wall clock had stopped moving. Even the dust particles in the air were suspended motionless. And I was the only thing still moving, still breathing, still existing in real time. I stood there for what felt like an hour, walking through my frozen apartment, waving my hand in front of Danny's face, screaming at the top of my lungs. Nothing moved, nothing changed. I was completely alone in a world that had stopped. The watch in my hand had gone completely black now. The veins had consumed the entire surface, and the red second hand was spinning wildly in both directions at once, faster and faster until it was just a blur. Then the duplicates started appearing. First one, then dozens, then hundreds of them, all me, all wearing the same clothes, all holding identical black watches. They were standing everywhere, in every room of my apartment, on the street outside my window, extending as far as I could see. Each one was slightly different. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. Some were crying, like they were all versions of me from different moments or different choices I could have made. And they were all staring at me with the same horrified expression. I realized then what the watch had actually done. It hadn't been rewinding time. It had been creating parallel timelines, branching realities where every rewind split off a new version of events. And by using it so many times, by creating so many fractures and loops, I'd caused all those timelines to converge, to collapse into a single point where they all existed simultaneously. I was seeing every version of myself that had ever pressed that button, every choice I'd made, every timeline I'd created, all existing at once in the same space. The watch suddenly cracked in my hand, splitting down the middle with a sound like breaking glass. The red second hand fell off and hit the floor, and the moment it did, all the frozen duplicates started moving at once. They all pressed their buttons simultaneously, and reality just shattered. There's no other way to describe it. Like the universe itself broke into a million pieces. I saw my apartment from 1,000 different angles all at once. Saw Danny frozen and moving and sleeping and eating, all in the same moment. Saw myself as a child and an old man and everything in between. Then everything went white, and when my vision cleared, I was back in my apartment. But it was wrong. There were 3 Dannys now, all slightly transparent, all occupying the same space but not quite aligned with each other. The walls were flickering between different colors and states of repair. My cat was both on the couch and under the table simultaneously, like a double-exposed photograph. And worst of all, I could feel myself splitting, like there were multiple versions of me trying to exist in the same body. I looked down at the watch and it was whole again, pristine and silver like the day I'd bought it. The red second hand was pointing at 12, waiting for me to press the button again. But I could see through it now, see into it. And inside there were infinite gears and mechanisms that defied physics, all turning in impossible directions, all connected to threads that extended out into reality itself. The watch wasn't a tool for controlling time. It was a wound, a tear in the fabric of causality that had been sealed up and hidden away until some idiot like me came along and ripped it open. I'd been sitting here for the past 6 hours trying to figure out what to do. The timeline is collapsing around me, moments from different times bleeding into each other, cause and effect losing all meaning. I can see the future and the past simultaneously now, see all the versions of myself that existed and will exist and might exist, and they're all screaming at me to fix this. But I don't know if it can be fixed, or if I've broken something so fundamental that reality itself is going to just unravel completely. The watch is sitting on my table right now and I can hear it whispering to me. Not in words exactly, but in feelings, in impulses, urging me to press that button one more time. It's promising that this time will be different, that this time it'll reset everything properly, put the timelines back in order, fix all the damage I've caused. But I don't trust it anymore. I think it wants me to press it. I think that's what it's wanted all along, to be used until the damage was irreversible. I've decided to write this all down and upload it before I make my final decision. If you're seeing this, it means I either found a way to contain the damage or I didn't and the timeline is still collapsing. Either way, I need you to understand something crucial that I learned too late. Some powers aren't meant to be used, some doors aren't meant to be opened, and just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. I thought I was being clever, thought I'd found a shortcut to make my life easier, but all I did was prove that humans are too stupid and selfish to be trusted with real power. The watch is calling to me again, stronger this time. I can feel it pulling at something deep inside me. Something that wants to believe that one more press of that button will fix everything. I know it's a lie. I know that every time I've pressed, it has only made things worse. But God help me, I'm starting to think I don't have any other choice. The Danny duplicates are starting to notice that something's wrong. They're looking at each other with growing horror, and I can feel the timeline fracturing further with every second that passes. So here's my decision. I'm going to press the button one final time. Not because I think it'll fix everything, but because I think it might reset me back to before I ever bought the watch, back to that estate sale when I still had a choice. If it works, there'll be a version of me that never touches the watch, that leaves it sitting in that box for someone else to find, or better yet, that convinces the estate sale people to destroy it. If it doesn't work, well, at least I tried to undo the damage I caused. I'm picking up the watch now, my hand shaking so badly I can barely hold it. The button feels warm under my finger, almost inviting, like it's been waiting for this moment. Through the fractured reality around me, I can see all my other selves reaching for their buttons too, an infinite army of Alex Carters all making the same desperate choice at the same exact moment. Maybe that's what it takes to fix this. Maybe we all have to press it together, synchronized across every timeline and possibility. Here goes nothing. Thanks for listening to this wild journey through broken timelines and impossible choices, guys. If this story made you think twice about finding mysterious objects at estate sales, hit that like button and subscribe to Time Traveling Stories for more reality-bending tailies that'll mess with your head. Drop a comment below telling me what you would do if you found the watch. Would you resist using it, or would you fall into the same trap? Smash that notification bell so you never miss our next mind-breaking adventure. And remember, sometimes the best way to control time is to just let it flow naturally. Stay curious, stay careful, and maybe think twice before pressing mysterious buttons on watches you find at estate sales.